The federal government has declared its support for community policing and its willingness to fund it. Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar said on Friday in Abuja that the National Security Council meeting presided over by President Buhari shortly before his departure to London reviewed the activities of the security agencies in the country. The Air Force boss noted that after a critical evaluation of the various operations, the meeting was satisfied with the progress being made in tackling banditry in some parts of the country. Data feeds are coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms on channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. You can follow us right now on m.channelstv.com and on Facebook as well. We've got all our platforms on social media covered. Be part of the show. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV. Use the hashtag State of the Nation and join the conversation. A Federal Capital Territory FCT High Court sitting in the Buhari area of Abuja has reaffirmed the sack of Senator Ifeanyi Ubah of the Young Progressive Party, the YPP. Senator Ubah was the lawmaker representing Anambra South District in the upper chamber of the National Assembly. In a ruling on Friday, Justice Bello Kawu refused to reverse the judgment of the court delivered in December, which removed Ubah as the member of the Senate. Mr. Obinna Uzo of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, who would challenge Ubah's victory in February 23rd polls, is now recognized as the winner of the election. What does this mean, though, to the nation's electoral process, the politicians, INEC, and indeed the judiciary? A Southwest Association, Save Lagos Group, on Friday gave the All Progressives Congress stalwart Bola Tinubu 24 hours to speak up on his position on the Western Nigeria Security Network, codenamed Operation Amoteku. Tinubu, who is seen as the leader of the Southwest by many, has remained silent on Amoteku, which was launched by the Southwest governors last week. The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami San, had on Tuesday declared the outfit as illegal, while the Southwest governors have remained unfazed. Where will the pendulum swing on the matter? Will Amoteku stay, or will it go the way of the AGF? We'll focus on this starting right now. It's prime time here in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Hello everyone, welcome to State of the Nation. I am Gimba Umar. Let's get started now, shall we? Nigeria's electoral process has thrown up questions and in some instances doubts if we are in the right trajectory that will ensure sustainable democracy for our people. Recent events, for some, are a pointer to the direction we're faced with today, where the courts seem to be determining who sits in the political office. Other cases have seen elections rerun, others inconclusive, with INEC saddled with the task of conducting elections again in a very costly exercise requiring taxpayers' money. During the week, the Supreme Court upturned the election of the Imo State Governor, Emeka Ihedioha, and ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to issue a new certificate of return to Hope Uzodinma of the APC, who is now the new governor of the state. While that has fully set in, with the former governor accepting the judgment of the Supreme Court, the question of the electoral process is again brought to the fore. Are we making progress in our electoral laws to the extent that the judiciary seems to be the last bastion of hope? Tochukwu Ohazurike is a lawyer. He joins me from our Abuja studios. Many thanks indeed for coming on the show. Also, Isaac Anumudu is a lawyer. He joins us via telephone from Abuja as well. We're hoping to get that link with him. Many thanks indeed to both of you for coming on the show. Let's begin with you in our Abuja studios, Mr. Ohazurike. Looking at the recent unfolding events to which the Supreme Court ruled on the Imo State governorship seat, could this situation have been avoided in the first instance?
Well, thank you, Gemba, for inviting me. Could it have been avoided? It depends on the context of what we mean by could it have been avoided. Is it that the matter shouldn't have gone to the Supreme Court, or the Supreme Court shouldn't have held the positions it held or delivered the judgment it did on 13th of January? But I think that there are a lot of external influences now that the Supreme Court needs to find an opportunity to assert its independence and make the public have that confidence that the Supreme Court is still an independent Supreme Court that can do substantial justice. Because looking at the facts of what's happened in this case, one, there are a lot of questions it raises that, and it must be stated that the full judgment of the Supreme Court is not yet out. So one cannot say with a tone of finality some of the issues, but there are facts that are so clear now that it is very difficult for one to piece them together and come to that conclusion. Facts that include the number of votes being more than the number of accredited voters. The fact that the Supreme Court analyzed the issues and discovered that these 388 polling units that are in issue were tendered by one policeman who actually, under cross-examination, subpoenas are to be served on the Inspector General of Police. But the policeman, under cross-examination, when he was being questioned to discover if he was assigned by the Inspector General of Police to come and testify on behalf of the police, said no, that a lawyer just gave him the something outside, the subpoena outside, to come and tender those documents for the police, and he did that, And also the issue of an earlier disqualification of the candidate of AA, who was disqualified for double nomination of having both the APC candidate and the Action Alliance APC ticket and the Action Alliance ticket. And, the fact that also 1 out of 70 candidates who contested this election had a different set of results. The other candidates who were also in the tribunal did not contest the figures as being varied, but the fact that there was principally non-compliance, and also the fact that the person declared as winner did not actually obtain 25% of the votes in 2/3 of the local government areas in the state as provided by law. So those were the issues, but in the end, the Supreme Court is final. The Supreme Court is final, just like the former governor had said. In as much as he said he did not agree, he also said because it was the voice of the Supreme Court, he was going to abide by that. So that is what every Nigerian is going to do. Whatever we are doing now is bringing out salient issues, making it academic. But I still think that when these issues are finally addressed in subsequent matters, because it is very difficult. I don't think there's any record of where the Supreme Court has reversed itself. PDP has called for the Supreme Court to reverse itself, but I don't think there's any record of that. What the Supreme Court can do is that in a subsequent matter, it will take a different position or correct whatever things it notices in this one. So I think that the Supreme Court will want an opportunity to also do that, because there are really, really very germane issues in this one that was not really addressed. And if you look at those figures and do the mathematics of it, you will see that
Mr. Anumoju, who is joining us via telephone to also weigh in. In your view, who do you think should be blamed of all the players in this instance? INEC, the politicians, or is it the system? What do you think? Who should be blamed?
There's enough blame to go around, if you ask me. The concern now is on the way forward. I will more concerned, because if you take of the blame, INEC has its own share, security agencies have their own share, the executive has its own share, and then the political parties, the politicians themselves have even the bigger share. But I think that we've come to the point now where all of us should be in a hurry, in a very big hurry, to get out of this political logjam, to get out of this shameful experience of inability to conduct free and fair, credible elections. It puts us completely out of the committee of decent institutions when we have very well accomplished citizens in this country. Therefore, it has become very clear that from recent experiences, it is become even impossible to conduct any free and fair election going by the manual, crude, relatively primitive methods we are still going about with now. And all the excuses we have been given in the past about power failure, about network failure, about access of internet, about logistics infrastructure deficiencies have all been proven to be whacked by the fact that the CBN was able to institute and maintain cashless policy up till today, such that you and I can transfer money from the comfort of our rooms and offices to wherever and any part of this country we want to send money to our kids and kids and obligations. Therefore, if we can transfer money something as important as money, and it is not being, stopped of people hacking the money. We are still able and confident to transfer money safely, even though with this minimal risk. But there's huge success in that area. That also tells you that if CBN as agency can do it, INEC can do it. And so the National Assembly must, as a matter of urgency, go ahead and amend the Electoral Act and give us electronic voting. Ensure that it is applicable nationwide and to all elections, so that as you're voting, the real-time result is being reflected, and collations are done in states. That's why you have a situation where we have a presidential election, and it takes 3 days to collect elections from before results can come from Port Harcourt or Akwa Ibom or Abia to Abuja. It takes 3 days. Why should it take 3 days for an election that ended at 2 p.m.? With electronic voting, collation should end at 3, 4 p.m. and results announced in each state, and only the conclusions announced at Abuja that same day. That's what we must be doing now.
Okay, let me put you on pause. Let me get back to you in Abuja, Mr. Ohazurike. In terms of preferring solutions to this problem in our electoral system, what would be your take on it? Because a lot of people are looking on whether or not should the elections continue as they are. Should we have electoral reforms? Should we look at relevant sections of the Constitution that has to do with the processes and even INEC itself and its guidelines? What do you think?
Thank you, Gimba. There is urgent need for electoral reforms, and not to wait until the twilight of the administration before that can be done. It's something that needs to be done now, so that even elections that are going to be held, governorship elections, there are 5 governorship elections between now and 2023, so that whatever reforms that are passed into law now can start being implemented and test run against the 2023 general elections. And, there was something very intriguing I saw in the Electoral Act about overvoting. We shout that in these elections, in this judgment of the Supreme Court, that the number of voters was more than the number of accredited voters, and to that extent, it was overvoting. But by the letters of the Electoral Act only sees overvoting when the number of votes are more than the number of registered voters in that. So the number of votes in this election is actually less than the number of registered voters. One could say by law, there was no overvoting. But it is practical to say that the number of votes should not ordinarily be above the number of accredited voters. So to that extent, such issues need to be corrected to show that there will be overvoting when the number of votes is more than the number of accredited voters, not just more than the number of registered voters in a particular polling unit or in the particular state for an election. Issue of transmission of votes also has to be an issue that must be taken care of. It has to be done electronically so that when there is a result, nobody will tamper with it, nobody will say it was excluded, nobody will say it was not included, and such other issues. And also the idea of result sheets. There have been instances, particularly in this 2019 election, where people are being returned to office by virtue of printing their own result sheets. It has been proven by INEC in their investigations and INEC has said such result sheets were not from INEC, and they look totally different, even physically.
Let me put you on hold because we have to wrap this up very quickly and just get the views of my other guest, Mr. Isaac Anumodu. What's going to happen to these scenarios, especially now that we're still expecting word from the Supreme Court on other states, including Bauchi, Benue State, in Plateau State, Kano State, as well as Sokoto? What impact do you think those pronouncements will have on our electoral process?
Those pronouncements are going to have far-reaching consequences on our electoral process because they highlight the incongruity. They highlight the deficiencies of the system, and they call for urgent action. Just like the last speaker said, the National Assembly should be in a big hurry, and the president should this time around not peter, not delay, not prevaricate in expeditiously assenting to the amended Electoral Act, so that it begins to take effect from the preparatory elections we are going to have, from the pending midterm elections we are going to have, before even the 2023 elections, so it can be sufficiently experimented.
Okay, that's going to be a good place to let it rest. My apologies, we'll just have to let it rest at that point. Many thanks indeed, Tochukwu Ohazurike. in our Abuja studios, of course, a lawyer, as well as Isaac Kanumudu, a lawyer, as well, talking to us via telephone. Now, when State of the Nation returns, a group in Lagos insists on knowing Bola Ahmed Tinubu's position on Operation Amotekun. Stay with us.